In this video, we are going to identify a cost as either a product cost, which means it's direct materials, direct labor, or manufacturing overhead, or as a period cost, which means it's a selling or administrative expense. So let's go through each of our items. Depreciation on the ovens in the factory cafeteria. Since that is related to our factory, that would be a manufacturing overhead cost, which is a product cost. So I will put an X in the product cost column, but I will also note that it is manufacturing overhead just for our reference. Number 2, the wages of a receptionist for the company president. That would be for the president CEO, that would be administrative. Administrative falls under period cost. So I will put an X in the period cost column, and just for our reference, I will also note that it is administrative. Number 3, rent for corporate headquarters. Corporate headquarters would be where our administrators are, our CEO, our president. So that would be an administrative cost, also known as a period cost. So I will also put that in the period cost column and note that it's administrative. Travel expenses for our salespeople would be a selling expense, and that would fall under period cost. So I will put an X here, and I will note that it is a selling expense. Number 5, soap and paper towels used by factory workers at the end of a shift. This is in the factory, so that would be part of manufacturing overhead, which is a product cost. So I will put that in the product cost column and note manufacturing overhead. Factory supervisor's salary. Remember, we talked about in the last video that a supervisor's salary would be considered indirect labor, and that indirect labor is part of manufacturing overhead. It's indirect labor because the supervisor is not actually working on the product. So therefore, I will put an X and note that it's manufacturing overhead, and I'll just make a note to the side that it is indirect labor. Number 5, heat, water, and power consumed in the factory. Again, that is factory related, so that would be manufacturing overhead. Salesperson salaries. That would be a selling expense. So therefore, that would go into the period cost column, and I will note that that is a selling expense. Advertising cost would also be considered a selling expense, which is a period cost again. So therefore, I will note in the period cost column that that is a selling expense. Number 10, workers' compensation insurance for factory employees. Since that's related to the factory employees, that is going to be manufacturing overhead, a product cost. Depreciation on the salesperson's cars. Since it is on the cars of the salespeople, it needs to be a selling expense, so therefore it is a period cost. And I will note that it is a selling expense. Number 12, factory rent. That is going to be a manufacturing overhead expense. Next, factory machine repairs. That would also be part of manufacturing overhead. Wages paid to factory workers. That would be considered our direct labor because the factory workers are the ones that are directly making our product. So direct labor is a product cost. So I will put an X in the product cost column, but I will note direct labor. And the last one, cloth for our seats. The cloth would be a direct material, which would be a product cost. So I will put it in the product cost column and note that it is a direct material. Thank you very much.